and this is The Five. A few hours from now, President Trump will address the nation on critical developments on Operation Epic Fury. Earlier today, he said Iran is begging for a ceasefire, but the U.S. will bomb the regime, quote, back to the Stone Ages until the Strait of Hormuz opens. Here's the president promising to finish the job.
We're finishing the job, and I think within maybe 2 weeks, maybe a couple of days longer to do the job. But we want to knock out every single thing they have. Now, it's possible that we'll make a deal before that, because we'll hit bridges, and we've hit some. We'll hit some bridges. We've got a couple of nice bridges in mind. But if they come to the table, that'll be good.
President Trump also putting NATO allies on notice, suggesting that he may pull the U.S. out of the alliance if they aren't pulling their weight. Secretary of State Marco Rubio echoing those concerns last night.
Unfortunately, we are going to have to re-examine whether or not this alliance that has served this country well for a while is still serving that purpose, or has it now become a one-way street where America is simply in a position to defend Europe, but when we need the help of our allies, they're going to deny us basing rights and they're going to deny us overflight.
And Democrats are pouncing on gas prices hitting $4, but the president is firing back, saying the pain at the pump will be over in no time.
Gas prices. Today they hit $4.
We're $4, yeah, and we have a country that's not going to be throwing a nuclear weapon at us in 6 months.
But Americans are feeling the effects in the interim.
And they're also feeling a lot safer.
What is the plan to bring them back down?
All I have to do is leave Iran, and we'll be doing that very soon. And they'll become tumbling down. And stock prices were up today almost to a record.
Dana, it's a big thing anytime a commander-in-chief asks for prime time, which is what he's getting.
So only a commander-in-chief can ask and be granted this opportunity to speak to this many people. And he did it in December, I believe, on affordability. And it helped for a little bit. He had the State of the Union, helped for a little bit. And then we had this. And this is now, we've been a month in. I think tonight will be very valuable. And as somebody who covers the news, I feel like I'm pretty clear on what we are doing there in Iran and what we want to accomplish. I read the stuff all day long. I listen to everything I can. But as you get farther out into the country, that's not necessarily the case. People have their lives, they're working on things, and they go to fill up their tank, and they're like, what in the world is going on? And the president has talked to a lot of reporters, and he's done a lot of social media, and it hasn't scratched the itch. And I imagine that this is something that he wanted to do early on, but he needed and wanted the element of surprise, because that's when they killed, I think, what was it, the 49 leaders that were all having brunch. And that was a huge mistake on their part, because they're no longer there. On the NATO front, I think not allowing the United States its basing rights is insanity. But I also think that there's a saying that if you want me to be there for the landing, I need to be there for the launch. And NATO is saying, well, wait, no, they have political considerations as well. They have politics that they have to deal with. Their country they're not energy efficient like we are. So it's taking them a minute. Now, on the good news front, Britain is gathering 35 countries tomorrow to say, okay, here's how we're going to help and go forward. So there's a little bit of that. Also, it's a short trading week. So the markets will be closed for the holiday, I think starting Thursday through Sunday. So maybe President Trump can get a little bit of extra time to be able to say, this is what we're trying to do, this is what we're going to do, this is what we want to do. I still feel, though, that there's this big delta between the initial invasion or bombing, in which the demand from the Iranians was unconditional surrender, and now we're like, but make a deal? But make a deal with what? Do they still get the capabilities to have a nuclear weapon? I thought that was the thing. And the president says in that clip there that the American people feel more safe now. I'm not sure that everyone feels that way at the moment, but he has a chance to help them tonight to understand. The last thing I would say is there's so many different audiences for this speech tonight. There's the American people, there's the U.S. military, the U.S. military's families who are like, well, wait, my child just got sent over. What are we doing? There's, of course, our allies, our disenfranchised allies, our adversaries, our enemies. And there's also the Iranian people. And what's really sad is that because the Iranians are so awful to their citizens, that no one in Iran will be able to hear what the president says tonight.
Yeah, that's a great point. 12,300 targets struck, 13,000 combat flights, 155 Iranian vessels sunk. Jesse, we'll no doubt hear about the extraordinary success of our military.
Yeah, he's going to say we're dominating, and we're almost done. The regime decapitated, the missiles, the Air Force, the Navy pretty much eradicated. And we've all hit their defense industrial base, so they can't rearm. And the proxy's severely weakened. We haven't heard a word from Hamas. Hezbollah is getting crushed in Lebanon. And the Houthis only fired 4 missiles since the start of the war. The uranium, so that's the wild card. We have hit those sites extremely hard. So there's a lot of rubble that's covering up a lot of this stuff. And we have the right to seize it, and that's out there. I don't know if he's going to pull the trigger or not, but the uranium that's left over, the Iranians are going to have to negotiate what we're going to do with that from an extremely weakened and vulnerable position. Now, I don't know what could happen in the next 2 weeks. We're doubling the amount of warthogs in theater. Those guys you're using when you have a ground assault on the coastline or an island. Those are the guys that do the close air support when you strafe the strait. And then you also see this submarine carrying probably Navy SEAL teams, which you use to insert secretively on a coastline in the dark at night. So he has a lot of options. I have no clue what he's going to do. NATO. Let's just say I'm very disappointed. Need we go through how much they owe us? We saved them twice from world wars. We bailed them out with the Marshall Plan. We even lowered our tariffs to 0 so they could recover for decades. And then we helped them out with Ukraine. And all we want is a base? All we want is airspace for a little bit to knock out the world's #1 sponsor of terror? They can't give us that. These missiles are in range of their capitals, not ours. They get their oil from that strait. We don't. The least they could do is say, okay, and deal with the domestic blowback. But to say no, well, like their economies are getting kind of murdered because they can't even sustain 4 weeks from an oil supply shock. Like, come on, you're not going to send one vessel to the strait? You're going to wait till the hostilities are over? Well, that's the Navy. That's what a Navy's for. To end hostilities. You don't get to play cleanup when we do all the heavy lifting. This has become very entitled, parasitic, and I'm not going to stand for it anymore. Wow. I don't know what that means.
It sounded good. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, Jessica. That's a premise we've agreed upon for decades. And this is the first president that's come from a position of strength to put facts and a footnote to that premise. But Democrats are pouncing, so you may pounce if you so choose.
In an effort to have something new to say today, we could replay the tapes of all of the Republicans that have been critical of this, or at least had some very serious questions that I think is fair when your country is engaged in a war that hasn't been pitched, sold to the American public, and when the approval is so low. And what I think about this evening's address is that the president is frustrated by the other messengers who have been out here talking about this, that he gets the feedback that the goals have not been properly communicated, that the American public doesn't understand why he went in, why he did it this way, what we have accomplished and what the exit strategy is, and that he thinks he is his best advocate and the best advocate for the American military and for our mission there. And so he's out there doing it. And the 4 goals that have been outlined, at least in what they leaked to the press, are even different from what Secretary Rubio said just 2 days ago. Because on Rubio's list, he did not have anything about a nuclear weapon. And that's back on the list, because that is the most important thing. That's the thing that people can identify with, where you say you can't have a nuclear Iran. Now, a lot of swirl about what the JCPOA had gotten us and whether we could have done a deal that was reminiscent of that, plus some extra checks. I know that there are critics of that deal, even on the Democratic side. That's out there, but he is undoubtedly being forced into this position because of, and he poo-pooed it, but over $4 for gas. His approval rating in now every poll that we've seen this week is in the 30s. We're not even talking about the low 40s. The CNN poll, he's -24 with men, -2 with white voters who don't have a college degree, minus 17 with seniors, and 65% say that his policies are making their economic conditions worse. That is unsustainable. Not even if you're thinking about a midterm. You just can't go through the rest of an administration like that. Two big questions for me. What does he say about the NATO alliance? We talked about the impact of the Strait of Hormuz on our European partners there in the region. That's a very serious thing to be lobbying, that we would want to leave. He needs Senate approval. McConnell and Chris Coons are out with a statement saying that you need Senate approval for that, which Marco Rubio knows. Secondly, the same Polymarket wallet that put a $500,000 bet on the exact timing of the first bomb that we dropped in Iran has put an $800,000 bet that there's going to be a ground invasion. So are we now looking at a ground invasion that's coming through? And also, I would love to know who has this information and is playing the betting markets.
Who knows? And
I hate the prediction markets.
I know.
Well, but
I would also just note the other argument is the Iran nuclear deal, the weak one from Obama that gave billions of dollars to Iran, had sunset clauses, and Iran violated repeatedly.
we just gave them
forced Trump
$14
into this
billion
position.
in sanctions easing, which is way more than they got back with a $1.7
Billions
billion,
of
which
cash, billions of cash
1.7
on
We need
airplanes.
sanctions to keep the oil prices in check, Jessica.
was there. Okay, I get it. You know, when it's you, everything's great, but it was a fraction of the amount of money, and they didn't have a nuclear
we also
weapon.
bombed them back into the
Just-
Stone Age.
I was completely reasonable.
You can't say
Jack
who's not
Gregan.
being tough.
Greg,
Get Greg.
you were reasonable, I will
yeah.
say. Yes.
So
Jess, you do bring up a good point. Trump saying we're going to bomb them back to the Stone Age. But in a Muslim country, what is that, 2010? The Dems love to talk about this war being of low approval. When has low approval ever stopped the Democrats? Every single issue, they're on the low approval side. They are squatting in the 20 of 80-20, whether it's on taxes, whether it's on education, voter ID, trans, borders, no cash bail. These are the least popular things since, I don't know, The View.
EVs.
Yeah, but I think Iran has always been like a stalling tactic, and the Dems were fine with that. And now you get a leader who says, I don't like to stall. I want to take out the nukes, the ballistic missiles, the terror groups they fund. And the Dems, however, they were fine with the drip, drip, drip of Iranian terror for decades. And that now they demand a timetable. Sorry, you guys were stalling. Let us do the job. 4 to 6 weeks. That's not a lot to ask after 40 years. Republicans, like Jessica said, who voted for Trump based on no wars, they have a right to be vocal, but I think Trump needs to make clear tonight that this isn't a forever war. If you look at what he did with Maduro, Soleimani, the Wagner Group, ISIS, this is what he does. And he's demonstrated what he does, and you should have faith in him, like I said. But unlike the Republicans, the Dems cannot demand a timetable. They are the wizards of endless money pits, from bridges to nowhere, the high-speed rails. They say we need more houses, but they make sure no one can build them for years. They say we need more affordable energy. You couldn't do nuclear power for decades until now. What about the homeless solutions? We put money in, so much money that it never gets done. I think they don't like Trump because he actually tries to solve the things, and when problems get solved, the Dems don't get paid. I think for every pursuit Trump takes, it's a construction project. He still puts on his hat, get in, get it done, get out, move on. There's no one who wants it done faster than him. Even his presidency is a job site. Literally, the White House is a job site. He tried to get everything done in the first year. And I think that is the scary part for Democrats is if a problem is solved, it does them no good. It reveals that the problem could have been solved, but they didn't solve it. And they lose power in the process of solving it. So when Trump does something quick, it causes panic. This should be done quickly. We hope it is. That's my faith.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.